Welcome everyone to this podcast. My name is Steven, and today we're going into how material wealth affects our faith. Now, I'm sure a lot of us have something that we hold value. We might like games, we have wealth, fame, recognition, all these things we hold a lot of value because it means a lot to us. But in chapter 12, verse 15, it says, "Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." Now, when these material wealths, when they become dangerous, is when we make them idols. We put them above God. Now, wealth in general isn't evil. We don't have to throw away everything we have in our lives just to be following Jesus. But the second that we are greedy and we put that above God is when that starts to get a little dangerous. And it says in Luke, life does not consist of an abundance of possessions. The purpose of our life is not to be the richest or to be the best at everything, but it's to worship God, do what He sent us out to do, and that's our purpose. All these other things are gifts from God. So when we put something over Him, we forget about that. We forget to be thankful because that's Him. Our pride gets in the way, and we believe that we're the best because we deserve it or something else. And that's when we lose sight of God. Now, this happened to Solomon because God gave him the gift of wisdom, and that led him to become the richest, most powerful king of all time. He had everything he could ever want. And all that wealth that got in his head, he started to lose sight of God and thought that he was the best. So he did whatever he wanted, anytime he wanted. And that wealth did nothing to help him. It only caused him to live a horrible life. It took away all his joy. It made him a horrible person. He lost his way of life because of this wealth. In 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10, it says, "For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs." Now, money itself is not the root of all evil. Don't go and throw away all your money. But the love of money, it's when you love it so much that you put it over God. Everyone says you cannot love money and love God at the same time because they go against each other. It's not the same. And people who are eager for money have wandered away from the faith. And that's when they hurt themselves. It says they pierce themselves with many griefs. They hurt themselves because of that. So we as humans, sadly, we do things that hurt ourselves. And we like it because Satan gives us that pleasure, that very temporary pleasure that causes us to lose sight of God. Every single person has something they value or love. I love video games. Other people might love sports. They might love money. They might love going outside or doing other things. They might love their friends or family. But remember to put God first. Don't let Satan control you. Because once you love something more than God, that's what he's going to use. He's going to use that and make sure you forget about God entirely. Now, this was shown clearly in Matthew 19, when a rich man came up to Jesus and asked, "Teacher, what good thing must I do to get eternal life?" And Jesus told him, "Do you follow commandments?" And he says, "Yeah, I do." "And what else do I need to do?" And Jesus says, "If you want to be perfect and join me in heaven, sell all your possessions and give it to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, and then you can follow me." But that rich man, he heard this, and he went away. He left because he had so much money, and he wasn't willing to part with all that. Now, this isn't just about money. This is about every single other thing in our lives. Jesus talked about money because he knew that man was rich, and he wasn't willing to part with it. But if he was talking to you or your friends or me, he would say, give up your reputation, give up your entire family, give up your job, your life, everyone around you. How many of us would be willing to put away everything and just follow God? If one man came up to you right now and said, give up everything, sell your house, go away, get out of the country and go to some distant area and preach the gospel, how many of us would follow that? Because it's difficult. Not all of us can give up everything in our lives because it means a lot to us. It gives us comfort. But remember, God gave us all these things, and He can take it away just like that, in a second. So why should we not give it up for a benefit? It's only temporary. Maximum, you'll have it for 50 years, and then you'll go to heaven, have something more beautiful, 10 times, 100 times more beautiful for all eternity. Matthew chapter 6, verse 19, "Do not store up for yourself treasures of the earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Now, if any of you guys ever watched the show Invincible, it says in the first season, Nolan asked Mark, after 500 years, what will you have? You can ask yourself that too. If you lived and you saw 500 years from now, what of your treasures, what of your life will you still have? Will that money that you have, will it still be there? Will that video game you have, will that still be there? Does that still hold value? Does it still mean a lot to you 500 years from now? Does it really matter in the long term? Because the one thing that hasn't changed is God. Because he's been here since the beginning of time. All the Israelites look back 500 years from now and they'll still see God. We can look into the future 500 years and we'll still see God. We'll see his goodness, his great grace and everything. Because that's something eternal. That's in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy. Ecclesiastes 5:10 says, whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This too is meaningless. This is deep. We always want more. Especially in video games, when you go into a ranked match, you reach this rank and you want to go higher. And then you keep pushing. You're not satisfied with what you have. And you're sad because you look back and you look at yourself when you first started playing the game for fun. You were happy. You had fun. It's not the same anymore. When you try to push for more, you're greedy and you want to be the best. But that's not what the point of the purpose is. That's not the point of the game. It's to have fun. And the point of life isn't to be the best, like video games. It's not. It's to also enjoy your time, create a relationship with other people, with God, and spread the gospel, and that will give you joy beyond anything you could ever think about. So many celebrities out there have this hole in their heart. They have everything they could ever want, and they aren't fulfilled. They aren't satisfied because they don't have the Lord, their Savior. And they'll look at other people who don't have as much as they do, who might struggle with life, but they have God and they're happy. And those celebrities with a hole in them say, I want that. That's what I want. And that's something only God can give. No money, no wisdom, nothing can do that except for God. And this has happened with Paul as well. One of the biggest prosecutors of the time was just killing Christians left and right. And then he met God. And even though he was persecuted for what he did as well, ironic, even though he was being put in prison, he was being stoned, he was the most happy man alive. He had God, and that's all he cared about. He was in prison and he'd preach the gospel to the guards. He was on an island and he'd preach the gospel to them there. He didn't care because he knew he had a life in heaven, and that if he ever died, he wouldn't mind because now he could go see Jesus. His purpose is fulfilled. He did what he had to do, and now he has the most perfect gift ever. Because of his actions, he gets what he deserves, a life in heaven. So don't put material wealth over eternal wealth, because none of that, it doesn't compare. The reason why people still do today is because that material wealth is right here in front of us. We can see it, we know what the meaning of it is, and we love it. We can't see the eternal one. We can't go to heaven and look at the whole amount of wealth, because if we did, we'd definitely try. We would try a lot harder if we saw what heaven looked like. We would know, oh, I want that. I'm going to do my best and be the best person there is. But God's testing us. He knows that he doesn't want to give us some incentive. He wants us to do it out of free will. That's why he gave us free will in the first place. That's why there's sin. Because our free will pushed us to sin and do the wrong thing and push us away from God. And that's okay because God still loves us and he gave us a second chance, Jesus. So go and put your faith in him. Don't put your idols above God. And if you ever do have an idol, like video games or money, God will test you. Every single person has their own weakness or desire that they have. And that's what they'll look for. That's what God is going to look for to see, are you willing to give that up for me? And there are so many people who have and are happy because of that. One of my favorite examples of this was when Tim Tebow, a football player, they won a game against the Steelers. And a guy came up to him and said, do you realize what just happened? And he's like, no, what happened? And he said, exactly 3 years ago, you wore John 3:16 under your eyes. Like, oh, that's great. And he didn't really care. He just won a game against the Steelers. He was so happy. And then the guy's like, no, you don't understand. Today you just threw exactly 316 yards. And the yards per rush was 3.16. Yards per completion was 31.6. The ratings for the game was 31.6. Time of possession, 31.6. And 90 million people searched up John 3:16 that night. And Tim would just stood there. He was convicted. At first he was just celebrating. He was at a high. And then he said he was convicted because God told him, Tim, you thought tonight was about a game. You thought about all of these things, these material things. It was never about a game. I didn't die for a game. That's powerful words. That's why I love it so much. Because Jesus didn't die for a game. He didn't die for money. He didn't die for material wealth. He died for your wealth, your treasure in heaven, that gift that he gave you. It's not about a game. It's not about a football victory or any of these things. It's about Jesus. It's about what he's done for us. That's why you have to ask yourself, what have I forgotten? Did Jesus die for my idol? Did he do that? Am I forgetting something? Am I losing sight? Because I certainly have plenty of times. I've lost sight of what actually matters. And God has to convict me. And he tells me, I didn't die for that. That's why it means so much to me. And so if you ever have any idols, remember, be on your guard against this greed. The purpose of life isn't for that. The love of money is the root of all evil. Don't be Solomon. And store up treasures for yourself in heaven, not on earth, because everything on earth is temporary. So be satisfied with what you have, because that's what God gave you. That's his gift from you, and that's more than what you deserve. Thank you for listening, and I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, I consider dropping a follow. It would mean a lot to me. And thank you. Have a great day.